From the outside, everything looked perfect. Our pictures on social media showed smiles, trips, candlelight dinners, the ideal couple. But behind every smile, there was a silent rule, a rule made by him. When I first met Ariv, he was charming, the kind of man who remembered little details, who'd open doors, who'd make you feel like you were the only one in the world. My mom used to say, "Beta, sometimes too much perfection hides something." But I ignored her, because when you're in love, even the red flags look like fireworks. In the beginning, his care felt like love. "Text me when you reach," he'd say. "Don't stay out too late. It's not safe." "Why are you wearing that?" "I just want you to be comfortable." I thought it was sweet, thought he genuinely worried about me. But slowly, that care turned into control. One evening, I went to meet my best friend Zara after weeks. We'd planned coffee and a movie, something simple. But Ariv texted me nonstop. "Where are you? Send me a picture. Who's with you? Why aren't you replying fast enough?" By the time the movie ended, I had 34 missed calls. When I called him back, he sounded calm. Too calm. "I was just worried," he said. "You could have at least respected my feelings." And then came silence, that heavy, punishing silence that lasted days. He never yelled, never hit me, never even raised his voice. But his words, they cut deeper than anything physical ever could. He'd say things like, "You're not like other girls. You actually listen. Your mom spoils you. You need to learn how to handle life. I'm the only one who truly understands you." Little by little, I started believing him. I stopped meeting friends, stopped talking to my mom as often, even changed my dressing style. Because I thought if I did everything right, he'd love me more. He'd be happier. But control doesn't end when you obey. It grows. A few months later, I moved into an apartment closer to my job. Ariv insisted on helping me set up. I thought it was sweet until he started picking every single thing. "This curtain color looks childish. You don't need so many books. They just take space. Why do you even keep pictures with your family on display?" The day he removed my framed photo with Mom from the shelf and replaced it with one of us, something inside me twisted, but I stayed quiet. That night, Mom called. Her voice always had this warmth that could melt away any bad day. "Beta, you sound tired. Everything okay?" I hesitated. "Yeah, just work stress." She was silent for a moment, then said softly, "Work stress doesn't usually change a daughter's tone like that." I brushed it off, but that conversation stayed with me. Mom always had this instinct. She could feel when something was wrong even from miles away. Days turned into weeks. R became more demanding, more watchful. If I laughed too loud on a call, he'd ask, "Who was that for?" If I wore lipstick, "Who are you trying to impress?" If I spent time with colleagues, "Do you like someone else?" It was suffocating, like living in a cage painted gold. Then came the day everything started to unravel. Mom surprised me with a visit. It was a Friday evening. I still remember the smell of rain and chai in the air. When I opened the door, she smiled wide and hugged me. BAS, I couldn't stay away. My heart said, "Come see your daughter." Arv wasn't home yet. Mom looked around the apartment, taking everything in. Her eyes stopped at the photo of us on the shelf. This wasn't here before," she said lightly. I just smiled weakly. Then she saw the empty space on my bookshelf. "Beta, where are your novels? You used to love reading." "Oh, Ariv said I should focus on real life more," I said before realizing how that sounded. Her expression changed. Just a flicker, but I caught it. She didn't comment further. Just started helping me in the kitchen, chatting casually. But her tone had changed. When Ariv came home, his face froze for a second seeing her. Then he put on that charming smile. "Honey, what a surprise." Mom smiled back, polite but sharp. "Yes, I thought it was time to surprise my daughter." Dinner was tense. Ariv tried to lead every conversation, correcting my every word, interrupting when I spoke. Actually, what she means is... No, she forgets things sometimes. Mom stayed quiet, watching. When I went to serve dessert, I heard them in the living room. Arif was saying, I'm just helping her grow. She's too emotional sometimes. Mom replied calmly, helping doesn't mean changing who she is. Her tone was gentle, but firm. I froze in the kitchen. Arif's voice lowered, defensive. I just want the best for her. Mom's reply cut through the air. The best doesn't come from control, Beta. It comes from love, and love never cages. For the first time, Arif didn't know what to say. That night after she left, he was quiet, but I could feel the storm brewing. The next day, he showed up at my office unannounced. You told your mom lies about me? He accused softly, almost whispering. I shook my head. I didn't say anything. But he didn't believe me. For days after that, things got worse. His messages grew sharper, his tone colder. And yet, Mom had seen through it all in one dinner. She began calling every evening now, asking about my meals, my work, my mood. Sometimes she'd just say, Beta, remember who you were before. Each word was like a mirror, showing me how far I drifted from myself. Then one evening, everything changed. Arif came over, angry and restless. Your mom is poisoning you against me, he said. And for the first time in months, I didn't apologize. I just looked at him, really looked, and realized the truth Mom had known all along. The man I once loved wasn't protecting me. He was controlling me. And that night, for the first time, I thought maybe love shouldn't feel like fear. The morning after that argument, everything felt heavy. The air, the silence, even the sunlight filtering through my window. It all carried the weight of something I could no longer ignore. Arif hadn't called. No messages, no apology. Just silence. A part of me hoped he would realize how far things had gone. But another part knew he wouldn't. By afternoon, Mom called. Her voice had that calm power, soft but strong enough to steady me. Beta, I know something's not right, she said quietly. You don't have to hide it anymore. I didn't respond right away. The truth sat heavy in my chest. He's not who I thought he was, Mom. Mom sighed, a sound filled with both relief and sadness. You finally said it. That evening, she came over again. She didn't ask too many questions. She just made tea, sat on the couch, and waited. That's the thing about mothers. They don't always need explanations. They just know. I told her everything. Every manipulation, every subtle jab, every rule I had unknowingly accepted as love. She listened without interrupting once. When I finished, she reached out and held my hand. Beta, she said, control is never love, and fear is not care. Her words sank deep into me. I didn't cry. I just sat there, letting the silence do the healing. 2 days later, Arif came over unexpectedly. I opened the door to see him standing there, holding flowers. The same kind he always brought when he wanted to reset things without taking responsibility. Can we talk? He asked. His tone was low, soft, but I knew that softness. It was his favorite disguise. We sat on the couch. I didn't mean to upset you, he began. But your mom, she doesn't understand us. I stayed quiet. He leaned closer. She's filling your head with things that aren't true. You know how people are. They don't like seeing others happy. Something in me snapped. You think control is happiness, Arif? You think isolating me, making me feel small is love? He flinched. Just a flicker, but I saw it. He forced a smile. You're overreacting again. You always twist things. The old me would have backed down, would have apologized, but not this time. No, I said firmly. You twist things, and I'm done pretending it's love. He stared at me for a long time, then stood up, jaw tight. If that's how you feel, maybe we need a break. Maybe we do, I whispered. When he left, the silence he used to weaponize against me finally felt like peace. But peace doesn't always stay undisturbed. 2 days later, he started showing up everywhere. Outside my office, near my building. Not violent, just there, watching, waiting. He texted, I can't believe you're doing this to us. You'll regret listening to your mom. You can't just walk away. I tried to ignore it, but the anxiety returned. The constant checking over my shoulder, the sleepless nights. Finally, Mom decided to intervene again. "This has gone too far," she said firmly. She made a few calls, one to my landlord, one to a lawyer she knew, one to my aunt. Within 2 days, my apartment was under new security, and she had arranged for me to stay with her for a while. At first, I resisted. "I can handle this, Mom." She looked at me, eyes steady. "You've handled too much for too long. Let someone handle you for once." Her words broke me, not because they hurt, but because they reminded me how tired I was of being strong for the wrong person. Living with Mom again felt strange at first. Familiar, safe, but also full of reminders. She'd leave little notes on the fridge. "Don't forget to eat. Proud of you. You're stronger than you think." Each note healed a small wound I didn't know I had. But Arv didn't stop. He called from different numbers. Left gifts at the gate. Once, he even sent flowers with a note that said, "You can't erase me." Mom saw the note. She didn't panic, she planned. "This ends now," she said. The next weekend, Arv came again. I was home alone. Mom had gone to get groceries. When the bell rang, I hesitated. When I opened the door, he was standing there, smiling faintly. "See? You still care. You opened the door." My hands trembled. "You need to leave." He stepped closer. "I just want to talk, baby, without your mom interfering." The way he said "your mom," like it was an insult, made my stomach twist. "She's not interfering," I said. "She's protecting me." He laughed, low and bitter. "Protecting you? From what?" "From love." Before I could reply, a voice cut through the air, calm but sharp. "From you." It was Mom. She'd come back early and was standing right behind him. Arv turned, startled. "Ani, don't Ani me," she said firmly. "You've crossed every line there is." Her tone was steady, but her presence was fierce. She stepped between us, her eyes never leaving his. "You call this love? You've made my daughter afraid to smile, to speak, to live. That's not love, that's control." He tried to speak, but Mom didn't let him. "You'll stay away from her. I've already spoken to the police and your office. If you come near her again, you'll see how far a mother can go to protect her child." Arv's face changed, the fake calm cracked. He looked between us, realizing his power was gone. Without another word, he turned and walked away. After he left, I broke down. All the fear, the guilt, the exhaustion, it came pouring out. Mom held me, whispering, "You did nothing wrong, Beta. You just loved the wrong way, and to the wrong person." We cried together that night, not for what I'd lost, but for what I'd finally gained, freedom. In the days that followed, Arv disappeared completely. No calls, no messages, just silence. This time, one that didn't scare me. Mom and I started going on evening walks again, like we used to before everything changed. She'd buy roasted corn and we'd sit by the park, talking about random things, movies, dreams, recipes, normal things. One evening, she said something I'll never forget. "Love shouldn't need rescuing, Beta. If someone truly loves you, they'll never make your mother step in to save you." I smiled, the kind of smile that comes from peace, not pretending. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of being alone, because I finally understood love that traps you isn't love. It's just control wearing a mask. And sometimes it takes a mother's courage to rip that mask away. Peace, it sounds simple, but when you've lived in fear for too long, peace feels unfamiliar, almost unreal. Days passed, then weeks. Each morning, I woke up expecting another text, another apology, another attempt from Arv to pull me back into his world. But nothing came. For the first time, I was free. Yet I didn't know how to live without the chaos. I would wake up early, stare at my reflection, and barely recognize the girl in the mirror. No more dark circles from sleepless nights. No trembling hands. No tightness in my chest. But still, there was this emptiness, like I'd lost a part of myself in trying to love him. Mom noticed. She always noticed. One morning, she placed a cup of tea beside me and said, "You're quiet again." I forced a smile. "I'm fine, Mom." She raised an eyebrow. That classic, "Don't lie to me" look. Beta, when someone spends too long in darkness. Even light can feel strange. I didn't reply, but her words stayed with me all day. The healing wasn't dramatic. There was no one big moment when everything suddenly became okay. It was slow, messy, real. Some nights I'd miss him, not him, but the version of him I once believed in, the version who held my hand and said he'd never hurt me. And then I remember the silence that followed every argument, the guilt trips, the emotional chains. Healing meant untangling every lie he'd wrapped around me and realizing I was never the problem. Mom helped more than she knew. She didn't lecture me. She didn't rush me. She simply showed me how normal life could be again. We started cooking together in the evenings. She'd put on old songs and sing along, half out of tune. I'd laugh. And for the first time, that laughter didn't come with guilt. She'd say, "See, Beta, this is what love should feel like. Peaceful, safe." One Sunday, she suggested something that scared me a little. "You need to start living again, really living. Go out with friends. Join that photography class you always wanted." I hesitated. What if people ask about him? She smiled softly. "Then tell them the truth. You loved, you learned, and you healed." So I joined the class. The first day felt awkward. Everyone seemed confident, talking about cameras and lighting while I fumbled with my lens. But then I met Ria, a girl with a laugh that could fill a room. Within an hour, we were talking like old friends. She had this lightness, unfiltered, unafraid, something I had forgotten I could have. When she asked if I wanted to grab coffee after class, I almost said no, but then I remembered Mom's words, "Start living again." So I said yes. That one coffee turned into many. Ria didn't know my whole story, but she didn't need to. She brought laughter back into my world. We'd sit by the cafe window, sipping coffee, watching the rain, talking about everything from dreams to heartbreak. She once said, "You know, people who've been through storms see the world differently. You notice things others miss." I smiled. Maybe that's why I love photography. Every picture I took in those days captured something new. Freedom, sunlight, imperfection. Each click felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. But healing isn't a straight line. One evening, while editing photos, my phone buzzed. A message from Ariv. Just one line. "I miss you. Can we talk?" My heart skipped a beat. Old habits came rushing back. Fear, guilt, confusion. I didn't reply, but my hands trembled. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed everything, his voice, his control, his apologies. At 2 a.m., I walked to the living room where Mom was reading. She looked up immediately. "Can't sleep?" I nodded, then handed her my phone. She read the message, then looked at me, calm, steady. "What do you want to do?" "I don't know," I whispered. Part of me wants closure, but another part is scared. Mom placed her hand over mine. Closure doesn't always come from talking to the person who hurt you. Sometimes it comes from choosing not to. Her words were simple, but they felt like armor. I blocked his number, deleted our photos, not out of anger, but out of peace. That night, I slept without fear for the first time in years. Months passed. Life began to feel like mine again. One evening, I was walking home after class when it suddenly started raining. Heavy, unplanned rain that drenched everything. Instead of running, I stood there laughing, letting the rain wash over me. And in that moment, I realized I was no longer the girl who needed saving. When I got home, Mom laughed seeing me soaked. "Pay Goladki," she said, handing me a towel. I hugged her tight and said softly, "Thank you, Mom, for not giving up on me." She smiled and kissed my forehead. A mother never gives up. She just waits for her child to remember who she truly is. Later that night, I sat by the window, watching the rain. My reflection stared back at me, stronger, softer, wiser. I realized something then. A controlling relationship doesn't just steal your freedom. It steals your sense of self. And healing isn't about getting that person back. It's about getting yourself back. I opened my journal and wrote, "Love should make you bloom, not break. And if it breaks you, may you have the courage to rebuild with or without them. By the end of that year, I had an exhibit at the local art gallery, a collection of my best photographs titled Uncaged. Every picture told a story: the ocean after a storm, a bird mid-flight, sunlight through cracked glass. Mom stood beside me at the opening night, holding my hand as people admired the art. Someone asked, "What inspired you to capture freedom so beautifully?" I smiled and said, "A lesson from someone I loved, and the strength of mother who taught me what love truly means." Mom's eyes glistened with pride. In that moment, I realized she hadn't just saved me from a toxic relationship. She guided me back to myself. The night ended with applause, laughter, and peace. As we walked home, Mom said, "So, what's next for my artist daughter?" I smiled. Maybe another exhibition, maybe a new chapter. But this time, I'll write on my own terms. And for the first time, I truly believed it. It's strange how peace becomes addictive once you finally taste it. Month had passed since the exhibition. My life had a rhythm again. Soft mornings with chai and sunlight, laughter-filled evenings with Mom, and a quiet satisfaction of creating art that came from truth, not pain. People often say healing is about forgetting, but I didn't forget. I remembered everything. The control, the fear, the silence. But now, those memories didn't haunt me. They guided me. They reminded me what love should never feel like. One morning, I woke up to the sound of Mom humming in the kitchen. The smell of parathas filled the house, and for a moment, it felt like the old days, before everything changed. "Morning, sleepyhead," she teased, sliding a plate toward me. I smiled. "You know, I don't deserve you." She raised an eyebrow. "Oh, you do. You just needed to remember how to deserve yourself first." I laughed, shaking my head. That was Mom, always turning my emotions into wisdom. After breakfast, I opened my laptop to check emails. Among the usual art gallery messages, one caught my attention: an invitation to showcase my photography in an international art festival in Dubai. My heart skipped a beat. Me? Out of hundreds of artists? "Mom!" I called out, barely holding in my excitement. "You won't believe this." She came running, wiping her hands. "Que hua?" I showed her the email. She read it twice, then looked up with tears in her eyes. "See, Beta? God always replaces what's lost, but with something better." We hugged for what felt like forever. It wasn't just about the opportunity. It was about what it symbolized: freedom, rebirth, and the woman I had become. The weeks that followed were a blur of preparation. Selecting pieces, arranging logistics, planning travel. For the first time, life felt like mine. Ria helped me pack and joked, "Please don't forget me when you become a global artist." Mom just smiled, her eyes saying more than words ever could. The night before my flight, she sat beside me, holding my hand. "Beta, before you go," she said softly, "promise me one thing." "What's that?" "No matter who comes into your life, friend, lover, mentor, never let them dim your light again. You know now what darkness looks like." I nodded, feeling the lump in my throat. "I promise, Mom." The festival was magical. Photographers, artists, and dreamers from all over the world gathered to share their stories through art. When my collection, Uncaged, went on display, people stood silently before each picture, some smiling, some crying. One woman approached me and said, "Your work feels free, like someone who's been through fire and still found beauty." I smiled. That's exactly what it is. By the end of the exhibition, I had not only sold 3 of my pieces, but also been invited to collaborate on a global project about women's resilience through art. It was everything I had once dreamed of, but now it meant even more, because this time I'd earned it without losing myself. When I returned home, Mom was waiting at the airport with flowers. She hugged me so tight that I could barely breathe. "I told everyone at the colony," she said proudly. "My daughter is an international artist." I laughed. "Mom." She winked. "What?" "Let me enjoy my bragging rights." That night, we celebrated, just the 2 of us, music playing softly in the background, laughter echoing through the house. Between songs, I said quietly, "You know, If you hadn't stepped in when you did, she interrupted gently, you would have found your way eventually. Maybe slower, maybe harder, but you would have, because you're stronger than you think. Her faith in me, it healed something deep inside that words never could. Life moved on beautifully. But fate has a way of testing you, not to break you, but to show how far you've come. One evening, months later, I ran into Arv at a cafe. I froze for a second. He looked almost the same, polished, confident, perfectly put together. But this time, his presence didn't shake me. He smiled awkwardly. Hey, it's been a while. Yes, it has, I replied calmly. He hesitated. You look good. Happy. I am. He nodded, then said softly, I just want to say sorry for everything. I didn't realize how much I hurt you. I believed him, not because he said it, but because I no longer needed his apology to move on. I hope you've learned from it, I said gently. We both deserve better. He looked at me for a long moment, then smiled faintly. You've changed. I smiled back. No, I've just remembered who I was before you tried to change me. And with that, I walked away. No anger, no pain, just peace. That night, I told Mom about the encounter. She listened quietly, then said, That's closure, Beta. Not from him, from yourself. I nodded. I think you're right. She smiled, eyes glistening. See? A mother only steps in to protect her child until she learns to protect herself. And now you finally can. We sat there in silence for a while, the kind that feels full, not empty. A year later, my second exhibition opened, Roots and Wings. Half of it showcased a journey of rediscovering oneself. The other half honored the people who give us strength to do it. At the center of the exhibit stood one photograph, a black and white portrait of Mom, sitting by the window with her gentle smile. The caption beneath read, She didn't just save me from someone else. She saved me from forgetting myself. When people asked about it, I simply said, This is the woman who taught me that love isn't control, it's freedom. Mom blushed when she saw it, pretending to scold me. Ab sablog muy emotional cardinga. I laughed, hugging her. Good. You deserve every tear of pride. As the lights dimmed that night, and the crowd applauded, I realized this wasn't just my story anymore. It was every woman's story who's ever mistaken control for care, and every mother's story who's ever stood between her child and heartbreak. Because sometimes heroes don't wear capes. Sometimes they wear simple cotton saris and carry the kind of strength that can shatter silence. Later, as we drove home, Mom held my hand and said softly, Beta, life will test you again. But never forget, you're not who you were. You're who you chose to become. I looked at her, tears in my eyes, and whispered, I'll never forget, Mom, because you're the reason I found myself again. And with that, the night sky outside seemed to sparkle a little brighter, not because of the stars, but because, for the first time in my life, I finally felt like one.